Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something that's surprisingly common and a little bit mysterious?
Oh, yeah. Sounds intriguing. What are we tackling today?
We're going to be talking about hair loss.
Hair loss! Okay, that's definitely something a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, and specifically androgenetic alopecia.
Hmm.
The kind that gives you that classic receding hairline.
Ah, the one people whisper about as male or female pattern baldness?
Exactly. And while we'll touch on the usual stuff like genetics and hormones,
Right, the usual
we're
suspects.
going to take a detour into the world of Ayurveda.
Oh, now that's interesting.
Yeah, thanks to this really cool 2021 case study from the Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medical Sciences.
I'm all ears. Tell me more.
So what I thought was really fascinating about this case study is, it looks at one single person's experience with hair loss,
Okay.
but it uses that to give us a glimpse into this whole different medical system.
Ayurveda's unique approach to health and healing.
Yeah, it's like we're peeking behind the curtain of a whole different way of thinking about the body.
I like that, peeking behind the curtain.
So before we get all holistic, though, I think it's helpful to do a super quick level set on androgenetic alopecia
Good idea.
from that Western medicine perspective that we're probably all pretty familiar with.
Right, right.
And the study actually kicks off with this really solid overview. It talks about the pattern of hair loss. It talks about those pesky androgens mixing it up with our genes
Mm-hmm.
and just how many people are actually dealing with this. It's a lot.
I bet it is. More than people realize, probably.
It affects about half of all men by the time they hit age 50,
Wow.
and about a quarter of women.
See, I told you.
So it's way more common than we think.
Way more common.
And it's not just about, vanity. The study points out that for a lot of people, androgenetic alopecia is actually tied to other autoimmune conditions.
Oh, interesting.
So that makes it even trickier to treat.
So you've got multiple things going on.
Exactly. And then there's this other really frustrating thing,
Oh, what's that?
where sometimes hair loss can spontaneously just reverse itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which makes it hard to figure out if a treatment is actually working.
Yeah. It's like, how do you know if it was the treatment or if it was just going to happen anyway?
I know. And I was struck by how the study basically said leaving alopecia untreated is a legitimate option.
Really? Wow.
It almost feels like Western medicine is throwing its hands up in the air sometimes.
I can see how it would feel that way for
Mhm.
sure.
Like, we don't know what to do with this. It's too complicated.
Right, right.
So this is where I think Ayurveda steps in with this completely different way of thinking about hair loss
Yeah.
and the body in general.
Totally different perspective.
So I know a little bit about Ayurveda, like the whole balancing act with Vata, Pitta, and Kapha.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be great to kind of connect the dots between those doshas
Yeah.
and what's actually happening on our scalps.
How do they relate to hair loss specifically?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you've got to think of it this way.
Okay.
Ayurveda sees the body as this interconnected system where everything is in constant flux trying to find balance.
Right.
And
Yeah.
those doshas, they're like the players in this balancing act, each with their own, energy and qualities.
So is hair loss like a sign that the doshas are having a dance-off gone wrong?
That's a great way to put it. Ayurveda calls hair loss Khalitya,
Okay.
and it basically boils down to an imbalance in those doshic energies.
Okay, so too much of one, not enough of another.
Exactly, yeah. The study, it uses this really vivid language.
What would it say?
It says, when Pitta combines with Vata or Kapha dosha to destroy the hair, it is called Khalitya.
Destroy the hair. That sounds pretty intense.
It definitely paints a picture, doesn't it?
Mm.
And I think it really underscores how seriously Ayurveda takes hair loss. It's not just a cosmetic issue.
Right.
It's a sign of a deeper imbalance. And, the exact symptoms, they actually depend on which dosha is more dominant.
Okay.
So let's say someone has excess Pitta, like our case study patient.
Okay.
They might experience inflammation, premature graying, or even that itchy scalp that just drives you crazy.
Oh, yeah?
So speaking of our case study patient, this 20-year-old guy,
Yeah.
he was dealing with hair loss, itching, and dandruff.
Oh, that's a rough combo.
It is, especially at that age.
Especially at that age, yeah.
And the study mentions he'd already tried a bunch of other treatments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, without success. I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been, and maybe even a little embarrassing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, hair loss, it can have a huge impact on self-esteem.
For sure, especially for someone so young.
Especially for someone so young, yeah.
Hmm.
So he was definitely at a point where he was looking for answers beyond conventional medicine.
Definitely.
So how did Ayurveda approach his case? Did they just say, hey, let's balance those doshas and call it a day?
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that. Ayurveda is all about personalized treatment. So they took a really close look at his symptoms, his overall health,
Mm.
even his lifestyle, to really try to understand the root cause of the imbalance.
So it's like detective work. Ayurveda is the detective,
Right.
and the hair loss is the clue leading to the real culprit.
I love that analogy. That's exactly how it works. And in this case, they determined that he had excess pitta, which was manifesting as that inflammation, the itching and the hair loss.
Okay.
So they created a two-pronged approach. Internal herbs to kind of pacify the pitta from the inside out,
Okay.
and then a topical oil to nourish the scalp and hair follicles directly.
Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. What happened? Did this Ayurvedic approach actually work?
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
After just 1 month of this personalized treatment, the patient reported a 50% reduction in hair loss.
Wow, 50%.
Yeah. The scaling, dandruff, and itching also decreased significantly and eventually vanished completely.
That's amazing.
And here's the real kicker. He even started seeing new hair growth on that bald patch.
No way. That's incredible.
Look at
I have to admit, that's pretty impressive. 50% reduction in hair loss after just 1 month.
It's remarkable.
And no nasty side effects. You definitely got my attention.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
But before I go throwing out my minoxidil, I'm curious, what exactly were those herbs and treatments? The study mentions a whole laundry list of ingredients.
It can be a little overwhelming trying to decode all those Ayurvedic terms, but remember how we talked about Pringraj earlier?
Right, the one you compared to Nature's Rogaine.
Exactly, and this case study really showcases its potential.
Uh-huh.
Modern research is starting to catch up with what Ayurveda has known for centuries. Pringraj might actually help stimulate those hair follicles and calm down inflammation, creating a better environment for hair to thrive.
So it's not just some mystical mumbo-jumbo.
Right.
There's actual science backing it up.
That's the beauty of Ayurveda. It blends ancient wisdom with modern understanding. Another key player in this patient's treatment was amalaki, also known as Indian gooseberry.
Oh yeah, amalaki. Isn't that a powerhouse of antioxidants?
You got it. It's loaded with vitamin C and other compounds that protect cells from damage. Think of it as a shield for your hair follicles, especially if you're dealing with stress or, live in a polluted environment.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
But there was one ingredient that really caught my eye, Aragvad Falamaja.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds a bit obscure.
I know, right? It's the pulp of a fruit
Okay.
from the aragvad tree. And you're not going to believe this. It's traditionally used as a mild laxative.
Wait, a laxative for hair loss? What's the connection there?
This is where Ayurveda gets really interesting. Remember how we talked about the interconnectedness of the body?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Ayurveda, they believe that constipation can actually contribute to pitta imbalances, which can then, show up as hair loss, skin issues, even irritability.
Oh, wow.
So by addressing the constipation with Aragvad Falamaja, they're essentially tackling that pitta imbalance from multiple angles.
Wow, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
One imbalance can trigger a whole cascade of problems.
Exactly.
This whole body approach is so different from how we typically think about health in the West.
It is, for sure.
So, okay, let's say I'm intrigued by this Ayurvedic approach, but I don't have access to a practitioner or all these fancy herbs. Are there any takeaways from this case study that I can actually apply to my own life?
Absolutely. You don't have to become an Ayurveda expert to benefit from its wisdom. This case study is a great reminder that sometimes the simplest things can make a big difference.
So, like what?
Well, for example, think about your stress level.
Oh, stress. That's always a fun one.
Right. But seriously, stress wreaks havoc on our hormones and can definitely contribute to hair loss.
Okay, yeah.
So finding healthy ways to manage stress, whether it's yoga, meditation, spending time in nature, or even just taking a few deep breaths throughout the day, those things can really move the needle.
Stress management check. What else?
Diet is another biggie. Ayurveda emphasizes a whole foods diet,
Okay.
rich in fresh fruits, veggies, and healthy fats.
So let's take out more home-cooked meals.
Got it.
Anything else?
This one's often overlooked, but scalp care. Just like we exfoliate and moisturize our skin, our scalp needs some TLC too. Gentle massage with natural oils like coconut or sesame can help improve circulation and promote healthy hair growth.
It's like a spa day for your scalp. I actually love doing scalp massages. It feels so good.
It does feel great. And it's not just about vanity, it's about stimulating those hair follicles and creating a healthy environment for growth. And remember, consistency is key.
Mm-hmm.
Just like any healthcare approach, Ayurveda takes time and dedication.
Makes sense.
It's not a quick fix. It's about making gradual, sustainable changes to your lifestyle.
So it's not about finding some magical herb that will instantly solve all your problems.
Right.
It's about taking a more holistic approach.
Exactly, and addressing those underlying imbalances.
Right.
This case study really highlights how powerful that can be. But of course, no approach is without its nuances. We've talked a lot about the potential benefits of Ayurveda.
Yeah.
But what about the risks? Are there any downsides to consider?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Mm.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of something new,
Yeah.
but it's always smart to kind of look at both sides of the coin. So what are the potential downsides or risks when it comes to Ayurveda?
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that Ayurveda is highly individualized.
Okay.
So what works wonders for one person might not do a thing for someone else.
Oh, interesting.
Or even, cause unexpected issues. It all comes down to your unique constitution
Okay.
and the specific imbalances that you're dealing with.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Definitely not. That's why having a qualified Ayurvedic practitioner in your corner is so important.
Makes sense.
They can help you figure out what's going on beneath the surface and create a plan that's tailored just for you. It's like having a health detective and a personal coach all rolled into one.
But what if you don't have access to a practitioner?
Yeah.
Are there any red flags that people should watch out for if they're kind of exploring Ayurveda on their own?
Absolutely. One thing to be really cautious about is the sourcing of Ayurvedic herbs and products.
Okay.
Quality control can be a bit of a wild west out there.
Oh, really?
And some products might contain ingredients that aren't what they claim to be.
Oh, wow.
Or even worse, could be contaminated.
So buyer beware. Do your research.
Yeah, choose reputable brands.
And always, always, always talk to your doctor if you're thinking about using Ayurveda alongside any conventional medications you're taking.
Absolutely, yeah. Some herbs can interact with prescription drugs, so transparency is key.
I think it's easy to forget that herbs are powerful.
Yeah.
And just because something is natural,
Right.
it doesn't mean that it's automatically safe for everyone.
Exactly. It's like anything else. You need to be informed and make conscious choices.
Mm.
And while Ayurveda can be incredibly effective, for boosting overall well-being and tackling certain health concerns,
Yeah.
it's not a miracle cure. There are limits to what it can address.
It's important to have realistic expectations.
For sure.
It's probably not going to replace, emergency medical care or treatments for serious conditions.
Exactly. It's about finding the right balance.
Yeah.
And knowing when to integrate different approaches for the best possible outcome.
So critical thinking is key.
Yes.
Don't just blindly follow any trend. Do your homework.
Right.
Talk to qualified professionals and make informed decisions about your health.
Well said. I think this case study, while just one example,
Yeah.
really opens up a fascinating conversation about how different healthcare systems can work together
Yeah.
and learn from each other. It's not about choosing one over the other.
Right.
It's about expanding our options and finding what works best for each individual.
I love that, expanding our toolbox. This whole deep dive has really sparked my curiosity about Ayurveda
I'm glad to hear that.
and the power of ancient wisdom. It makes me wonder, what other health concerns might benefit from an integrated approach, combining Western medicine with traditions like Ayurveda?
That's a great question. I think there's so much potential there for different areas of health to benefit from this kind of teamwork.
That's definitely something for you all to ponder as we wrap up this exploration of hair loss and the world of Ayurveda. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.